Hi everyone, I'm Jessica DiRuzza from Trust Psyche, and today I want to channel for you the Mercury-Mars alignment that is currently in the sky for everybody right now. This transit has been here since the beginning of this month of July, and we're still in the pretty close exactitude of this alignment. So, what I'm about to share is very potent, vivid, alive, and powerful for every single person on this planet right now, which is what the world transits represent: the collective zeitgeist or the collective psyche, the anima mundi, the soul of the world. The world transits are the anima mundi's birth chart moving through time. So, as every individual person has a birth chart, the soul of the world, which is made up of so many different beings, including all of us humans, is seen in the world transit. So, this moment is the birth chart of the world. This moment is the birth chart of the world. And we can see the evolutionary unfolding of the anima mundi, the soul of the world, through the movement of the planets at any given moment in time, in the past, the present, or the future. So, as in typical Jessica fashion, um, when I talk about the archetypes, I talk about them in a way that is visceral, it's embodied. And that's why I use the word channeled, because it's coming through on multiple levels of being and dimensions of existence. So, if you like the way that I talk about the archetypes, then I would like you to sit back and receive what it is that I'm about to bring through on the Mercury Mars alignment. What's important to remember about this alignment is that Mars is currently in the sign of Aries, the sign that Mars rules. And Mars is going to be in Aries for the rest of 2020. It's going to station retrograde on September 10th, meaning it's going to appear to be moving backwards in the sky. And then it's going to do that at 28 degrees Aries, for those of you who are more familiar with astrology. And it's going to retrograde back until November 13th, and it's going to go back to 15 degrees Aries. But more importantly, because Mercury is with Mars right now, it's a really good time to talk about Mars, because Mercury is the planet of communication, ideas, your voice, the information that you want to impart and want to share through speaking, through writing. So every single word that I'm about to use, and the style and the manner in which I express myself, including my hand gestures, the tone of my voice, the rhythm and syncopation of my voice, the force of energy behind my voice, and then the content of my voice, is all Mercury. But because it's square to Mars right now in the sky, Mars is going to be channeled through all of those different ways that we use Mercury to express ourselves. So, what I want you to take in right now is both the way that I'm speaking, the manner, the style, the tone, but also I want you to take in the way that you're feeling when I speak. What do you notice in your body? What do you notice in your mind and in your reverie? Are you comfortable or uncomfortable? Do you find it passionate or do you find it aggressive? Do you find me talking too quickly, or do you want me to bring more oomph? Am I making you feel agitated or irritable? All of these ways that you're noticing me are also the ways that you can register how the Mercury Mars alignment shows up in the world, particularly through you as a unique being, channel, and vessel of these energies. So we both want to use what it is that I'm saying in the content, the manner in which I'm saying it, but also how you're receiving it. And everything now fits with under the Mercury Mars archetypal combination or cycle of time, because that is what we're invoking and bringing through in this moment. Mars tends to be forceful, direct, sometimes aggressive, very assertive. It's fire, it's yang, it's passion. It can sometimes turn into anger and rage, and there's going to be all of that today. The last thing I'll say about this Mercury Mars alignment and Mars going retrograde in Aries, and what's unique about this Mars alignment, typically Mars alignments only last for a few weeks, but this particular alignment of Mars um, is moving into a 90-degree square with the three planets of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, all in the sign of Capricorn. So Mars will be square the Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto stellium all the way through January of 2021. So we have a solid 6 months of part of what I'm going to be bringing through today in this live stream. This is really important to remember because when an inner planet like Mars goes retrograde, which only happens roughly about 9% of the time, every 2 years it stations retrograde, it makes it a more intense time period. It makes it a time period where things are more activated. And we're going to see this fiery activation come into the collective. We're already seeing it now, but we're going to see it increase in velocity and we're going to feel it increase in its crescendo. The last time Mars was with Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto was in the four planet stellium last March here in 2020. So when things really started to take off with COVID and the pandemic, that's represented by Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto. So now we're coming into the next square alignment. And so we're going to see the next phase of the evolutionary unfolding of what, in part, this pandemic and everything that's going along with it represents. So now I'm going to specifically be talking about the Mercury Mars and channeling it for you. So, full disclosure, in typical Mercury Mars fashion, and maybe you've all been noticing this too, I've been really angry since last night. Just a lot of anger in my body and a lot of racing thoughts in my mind. A lot of mental activity. My mind has a lot of heat. Um, my ideas are both on fire in that in kind of inspired way that Mars brings that thrust of inspiration to the mercurial mind and ideas, but it also can create an overstimulation. Some people would link it to things like ADHD, hyperdeficit attention disorder. Other people would link it to the aspect of the debater, the lawyer, the one who likes to get into the meat of things and get really messy and isn't afraid of conflict. Mercury Mars is all about addressing conflict and about expressing one's anger through one's ideas. There is a little bit of a quality of truth serum with the Mercury Mars because it has such a blunt quality to it. People who have this in their birth chart tend to speak in a very direct and even blunt manner that can be very activating or triggering for other people who receive that energy who either A, don't have it, so it's foreign to them, or they have some kind of allergy to anger and aggression, which some of us do, right? A lot of people are conflict avoidant, but also you can see that some Mercury Mars people um, like to stoke the fire. And I'm willing to place $20 that an email that I just got from somebody this morning that they have Mercury Mars. So, full disclosure, again, not only have I been angry since last night with lots of uh, heated thoughts and over racing mind, but I sent out my Trust Psyche newsletter yesterday, and I get responses from that from people. And there's one response in particular that I want to address right now that really just got me going. So I had someone email me saying that they thank me for my work, but that they have unsubscribed from me because ever since I started bringing my politics into my teachings, they no longer wanted to listen to me anymore because I'm alienating sections of the public. I get that. We don't all have the same political views. I don't think I'm an overly political person. Yeah, it naturally comes in. But they said that they would be willing to study with me again if I was willing to become neutral in my politics. And here's what I have to say to that. And I want to thank this person for writing this message to me. And my response has nothing to do with you and everything with what your message represents to me. The Mercury Mars wants me to say, go fuck yourself. But the debater part of me that wants to go head to head in intellectual combat says this: it is not possible to be neutral. Neutrality is a fallacy. I repeat, neutrality is a fallacy. There is no such thing as being neutral. It is impossible. How do we know this? We know this for so many different reasons. But one that we know astrologically is that every single time any person looks at something, speaks to something, thinks about something, participates in something, they're doing it through the archetypal dynamics of their birth, which are inherently not neutral. It's what makes you and I uniquely different from one another. Or the way that the world transits are intersecting with our personal transits, and that right now the Mercury square Mars in the sky is on my natal sun Mercury, hence why I'm here expressing in every last single word and hand movement the Mercury Mars energy. Neutrality is a fallacy, so no, I will not be neutral, and neither will you. Second of all, you don't get to where I am and who I am as a person by being neutral. You get to who I am and where I am, including my insights and understanding of the planetary archetypes, astrology, by being an impassioned, driven, fully immersed human being who cares deeply about every single last thing that I talk about. The way that I talk about Venus Saturn is wholly informed by every experience I've ever had, every person I've ever met, and yes, that includes my political views. The political is personal. So if you like the way I talk about the planetary archetypes, what is partly coming through in that is my politics. And my politics, just for the record, are this: I am a progressive person who believes in human rights and equality for every last single human, plant, and animal on this planet. That is my politics. And if you want to understand my worldview, which wholly informs my full understanding of astrology, because half of what I teach is an astrological worldview that includes participation and knowing thyself, those two things coming together in a co-creative dance with the entire world and all the humans in it. And the other half is going into the archetypes, because sometimes I hear this: can't you just talk about the archetypes? I just want to hear what you have to say about Moon Pluto. Mm. If you want me to stay in the candy shop with you like a 5-year-old, then fine. You probably shouldn't be listening to me, because I don't stay at the aesthetic level of existence. I go into the existential, the psychological, the emotional, the spiritual, the karmic, the historical, and all of it. All of those things make me who I am and how I understand the planetary archetypes. For all my relations are the birth canal of who I am. And so I will not be neutral, and I will not remove my politics from any aspect of my life, because people are dying, and people are starving, and people are homeless in an abundant earth that has enough energy and resources to provide for every last single human on it. And it's the human distribution of resources and wealth that distorts Gaia's natural love and compassion and abundance for every human on this planet. It is the human being's ignorance and distortion that causes the breaks in the chain that allow us to not only survive and have our basic resources met, but to live and to thrive and love one another in compassion. So here is what I have to say in good, typical, spicy hot Mercury-Mars fashion. If you want me to sit here and just talk about the meaning of the planets and remove my politics, that's like you saying you want me to remove the fact that I have done psychedelics for 15 years. That's saying like you want me to remove being a psychotherapist and sitting in shadow underworld work every day for over 12 years. That's like you saying that you don't want me to be a woman. That's like you saying you don't want me to be a mother. All of those things make me who I am, just like all of the things in your life make you who you are. And for me, part of the path of astrology is about acceptance. It's about radical self acceptance of who we are, seen in the cosmic influences of the planetary bodies, combined with the terrestrial, personal history of our biography, our family of origin, our socioeconomic status, our political upbringing, our religious upbringing. All of those things is the art, the masterful weaving together of the celestial and the terrestrial, to not only know thyself and radical self acceptance, but to live in a better, more holistic, empowered way, not just for our own spiritual individual development or enlightenment, but to come together as a human species. When we connect the above with the below through the heart, we have the rainbow people. And that's what we're going for here. We are trying to become the rainbow people by the way that we interact and seek with this divine wisdom that we call astrology. Okay, so Mercury-Mars. Mercury-Mars loves to use the instigative fire of a conversation where you feel angry, you feel irritable, you feel fucking pissed off. Swear words are a big part of it. You know I like to cuss. To ignite the flame of your soul. James Hillman says he could never write anything good unless he was fucking pissed off. Well, I'm going to tell you what. Most of my best talks and my best writing comes from my rage. The place inside myself where that fire burns so deep and so hard that I couldn't live with myself unless I found some way to express it. That's what Mars wants from us. Mars wants us to use our anger to ignite our soul, to creatively flare forth in our unique individuality, and to activate and to awaken not only our own creative spark, the will of Mars, but that of others, to wake up the light in ourselves, to wake up the light in others. And so I use both the negative and the positive Mercury-Mars expressions in my life through interactions with other people and my own self to ignite that flame. And that's what this person did by writing this feedback to me. I take your critique and I take your feedback and I use it to ignite the flame of my voice. Mercury-Mars is about igniting the flame of your voice, to speak with courage and bravery and passion, to have impassioned speech, to allow yourself to sweat and perspirate as you get into the messiness of life and into a dialogue, to speak with force, but also to listen with force. For I listened and listened and listened until the flame turned and it came out of my throat. And I have something that I need to say, something that I need to share. It takes a lot of courage to get up here and talk to all of you because I haven't met most of you. I haven't even seen most of your pictures. I don't even know exactly who's listening when I'm doing this. When I first started speaking as an astrologer, I knew every single person in the room. They were more or less a friend. Now I'm speaking to such a level that I don't even know who you are. I feel you. I want to know who you are, but I don't because of so many reasons, including doing this over the internet. It takes a lot of courage for me to take my insides and put them on the outside, to make myself vulnerable and to show you my authentic process as a means to model or demonstrate how I live with these archetypal energies. This is Mercury-Mars alive right now inside of me. I'm not going to go read some book and do all the adjectives of what it means. No, I'm feeling it right now. I'm sweating. I'm hot. I feel angry. My voice is loud. It's accelerated. Right? There's a lot of passion in my hands. I have fists. This is how I learn about the archetypes, by feeling it, by embodying it, by living it, by letting it momentarily possess me as I try my best to stay thinking about in a reflective mode what's going on right now. The Mercury part is analytical and it's observing, it's witness consciousness. And so it's like, how do I use that witness consciousness in my analysis to see how the Mars fire is coming through me right now? It's so important for us to not downplay anger. It's so important for us to find a holistic way to be with our anger and our rage, right? When we repress our anger and our rage, it turns into things like depression or passive aggressive energy, right? Passive aggressive energy, the shadow side of Mars with Neptune. But with Mars coming into the square to Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, you know, Jupiter Mars is about celebrating the warrior. It's about celebrating your anger. It's about celebrating your passion and going big with it. It's the aspect of the conqueror. It's the aspect of the entrepreneur. It's the aspect of the one taking a risk and seeing success and good fortune and going ahead and breaking the mold and leaping out. The Mercury Pluto is an empowered anger or an empowered warrior. It's the aspect of strength. It's the aspect of fighting on behalf of transformation and evolution. There's a powerful, powerful energy in the Mercury, or excuse me, in the Mars Pluto. But it's also this energy of Kali that takes you over in such a primal rage that you literally feel like you're on fire. Like those monks who take fire and burn themselves, that has a quality of Mars Pluto to it. It's like literally lighting yourself on fire. I have so much sweat coming out onto my face right now. That is Mars moving through me. All right. Mercury Mars is also the sharp tongue. It's the ability to use your words as a weapon. It's the ability to use your tongue to pierce into another person. Mercury Mars people have the tendency to be able to find somebody's weak spot and go right into it. The chink in the armor, the place where the Achilles heel is. Mercury Mars people know exactly where your Achilles heel is, and they're able, when they want to, when they're angry, sometimes it's conscious and intentional, sometimes it's unconscious, as is all of us with our aspects, and they just go right in between that armor and they find it and shoom, shoot the arrow, take the dagger, take the sword, or whatever your particular poison is, and they go chick, 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 right? So Mercury Mars people can drive us fucking insane because of that ability to wound us with their words, to find the weaknesses in our defenses, right? Mercury Mars people also going to be very reactionary, right? There's something about what I'm doing right now that's reactionary. It's a reactionary conversation to an email that I received, right? To someone who used to support me, but now they don't because I'm not neutral in my politics, right? So it's a reaction that's happening right now. There's an impulsivity to it. It's like, I got on here and I'm doing this. There's no script, there's no plan. Mercury and Mars doesn't use a script, it doesn't use a plan. It just goes full force into expression. And there's a place for that. And there has to be room for that, right? But also, what I notice is usually people who have the goal to send emails like that, right, tend to be Mercury Mars people. The people who are like, I notice who are like, hey, you're saying things that maybe you shouldn't be saying. And I'm going to sit here and I'm going to, kind of try to censor you or at least let you know that I don't like what you're doing. Almost always have Mercury Mars. It's incredible. It's like, it's one of my favorite parts of Trump, actually. This guy, he literally tells you exactly what he's going to do by telling you what the other person is doing. It's like my most favorite primitive form of projection that Psyche does. It's just so great. When he's like, or anyone's like, you're doing this, blah, blah, blah. And they take their finger and they're pointing at you, which is a very Mercury Mars thing to do, is to point the finger to blame and to shame. Yeah. What he's really saying is, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. Hey, everybody, I'm doing this. It's like a constant outing of himself. He's constantly outing himself, but every time he does this, he means to be doing this. And it's just like one of my favorite tricks of Psyche that Psyche does. I mean, one of my favorite things about Psyche is that Psyche never lies. Psyche never lies. So you just remove the negative and you actually hear what the person's really saying. That's how you can psychologically read the subtext of life. So when someone starts narrating your story for you, and they're like, you're like this, you're doing this, all you have to do is be like, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. It's so great. It's like if I were a president of another country going to war with Trump, I would be like, guys, we don't need any spies. We don't need to, infiltrate their security system. All we got to do is listen to this guy tell us what we're doing. And he's actually giving us his entire game plan for everything he's doing. I love it. And that's what I do with all of my enemies, right? All the people who like to sit here and narrate my story for me and project onto me and all this stuff. And I just listen to them and I'm like, oh, is that how you're doing? Oh, is that what's going on for you? Right? I think, and this is also part of my Mercury Mars manifesto, I think we all need Psych 101, right? By the time we're 5, we all need to understand that little chart with all the faces on it that tell you what the different emotions are. This is happy, this is sad, this is angry, right? Like that's basic Psych 101. Like these are what emotions are. Like by 5, we should all know that. Just like we know our ABCs or how to count to whatever number, right? Like that's basic human learning. Okay. Psych 102 is, I think, a lesson in how Psyche never lies. I think Psych 102 is like whenever someone says always or never, which I mean, I guess I'm technically saying Psyche never lies. So, but when someone says always or never, just remove the always or never, right? Because it's like that's when someone's in a complex. That's when somebody is, making these absolutes, which we know isn't really how things work. Mercury-Mars has a tendency to like to make definitive absolutes. I mean, Mercury-Mars is the aspect of saying this is the way things are and that is it, which, I am partly doing right now in full honoring of the Mercury-Mars energy. So let me continue with that. Okay, here we go. Let's keep going with that. Psych 103. Projection is a basic human thing that we all do. It is not inherently bad or good. There's no value judgment in the act of projection. And when you get pop psychology going, you get things like, well, that's just projection. And it's like, oh, well, okay, well, we all project. And actually, it's one of the most primitive forms. And I don't mean that in a value judgment way either. It's one of the first things we do as a young child. We actually have to project in order to become human. We actually have to project in order to become human. That's how we know ourselves. We project out our inner world, our sense of self, our identity, our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts, our hopes, our dreams onto the world around us. First to our parents, who are godlike figures to us, right? The center of our universe, who provide all of our survival needs, more or less. And then we actually do that onto God, right? We project the divine out, whether we believe in the divine or not, or what the qualities we believe, right? All of that it comes in from a projection, and it's that outward mirror that we get to use through our parents and teachers and other people and God to understand ourselves, to see ourselves, right? We first know who we are from outer reflections and then inner, okay? So projection is a basic thing that we all do. When we talk about projection as we become adults and we talk about the shadow or negative sides of it, is when we are unaware that we're projecting and we think that everything that's going on outside of us is everybody else's fault. When there's blame or there's shame and there's a lack of taking responsibility for one's own participation and co creation with whatever the situation might be. Now, this gets a really messy topic because I'm not one who believes, and you all know this, that reality is just a projection of our inner world and, we're living in this myopic, solipsistic universe. No, of course not, right? Um, it's also important to remember that if you are born into the world today, and the fact is that if you're black or you're a person of color, then you're going to be living in a society that unconsciously and systematically and fundamentally reflects back to you that you are less than, less valuable, less worthy, less rightful to the qualities and experiences and access to things that people who are presenting as white or white um, get. Okay. So there are no such things as clean mirrors that perfectly reflect back to you your innate worth and your innate pure self, right? distortions happen on every level of existence. And we have to take that into consideration when we're making our astrological interpretations. Parents distort, children distort, right? Parents distort their reflections back to us. We distort our interpretation and meaning of them. There's how the parent reflects the child, but there's also how the child interprets what the parent is reflecting. So distortions are a part of what's going on. But when you look at something like systemic racism or systemic misogyny, then you're dealing with the natural kind of human everyday distortions that happen on top of a bedrock of a fundamental distortion that this person is not equal to every single other person. So, my politics, coming back around, will always be informed by my understanding of this truth. As a daughter of an immigrant, as a daughter of a Muslim, as the granddaughter of my black grandfather, as the uh, niece and cousin to my Hispanic relatives. Okay? So, you want me to be neutral about something that it can not be neutral to any single person on this planet who does not get the benefits of white supremacy. And you're trying to tell me that to know myself through astrology, which for me is my spiritual practice to come into greater places of compassion, love, and understanding, which is exactly why I'm getting on here right now, using my Mercury-Mars in the sky through me to come to greater self-healing and compassion for myself and others. And that is possible to do through any planetary combination, and I'm doing it through the Mercury-Mars right now. To be neutral about something that no person who is not white can be neutral about, particularly a white male who has good socioeconomic status. So I will not fucking tolerate that idea coming in, because there's no way I could have the understanding I have about Pluto or any other planet without taking into full consideration the best of my ability that I can from where I'm standing here, what it's like for a person to suffer and be oppressed because of something that the goddess made them as that they can't help, like the color of their skin or their gender or their sexual orientation or their gender identity. And so I'm going to end with this. This is my final Mercury Mars kind of manifesto here before I calm down, wipe off all my sweat, take it down a couple notches to move into receptive mode for my clients today. By the way, if any of you are watching this, don't worry. I'll be centered, although sometimes you do say you want me to bring a little bit more Mars in the session, so maybe today's a good day for it. This is what I have to say. People ask me when this is all going to be over. And I'm not really sure what that means. When my question back is, when what is going to be all over? The pain, the suffering, the mass extinction that we're facing as a human species, like the social injustice and unrest of all minorities, like which part? Because it is fair to say that the current Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn relates to the kind of extreme intensity that's happening on all levels of existence right now for every single person who's watching this, myself included, and that transit will pass out and some other energies will come in. But there is no way that we are going to be okay or healthy until we learn to stop killing one another and learn to actually have genuine compassion and empathy and care for every single person on this planet. That none of us will be free until all of us are free. We are facing extinction of our species. That is the bottom line truth of what's going on in this world today. So if you are alive right now and you have incarnated on this planet, you have shown up in one of the most dramatic moments in human history. And it's the question of whether or not we're going to survive. And I believe in my non-neutrality that there is no piece of technology or science or vaccine that is going to cure our aching, ailing hearts. And until we learn to love from this place and heal what is going on inside of here, we will never be okay. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Trust Psyche YouTube channel for my impromptu Mercury-Mars discussion and channeling. I have so much gratitude for your presence and participation in my life. And for those of you who have yet to hear, I am pregnant with child, and we're really excited to be bringing our daughter into the world this fall under these alignments. And when I question myself as a mother, who I know that from a nervous system perspective, my child is picking up and feeling everything that I'm feeling, I have to ask myself, what is the place of my anger? What is the place of my grief and my sadness? What is the place of my fear and my anxiety, the more challenging kind of parts of being human? When there is a whole transparency between me and this being who is living inside of me that I am now wholly responsible for. And when I check in with her and say, hey, baby girl, what are we going to do with this anger today? I can hear her say, Mama, we're going to be human and we're going to let it out and we're going to move it through, because we know that that's what the healthy thing to do is to find constructive ways to express how we're feeling and to allow all emotions to be acceptable here, and all aspects of psyche and all aspects of self and all aspects of the planetary cosmic system that we call astrology. For I know that she's going to share in some of these alignments that we've been talking about today, and she's going to live with them her whole life. And as we are the most merged and symbiotic as we will ever be, I honor her, I honor myself, and I honor all of you by being here today and doing my best to authentically share with you. Thank you so much. I'm sending all my love, all my blessings, and all my passion and fire to you.